Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're here live at WYSL until 1 p.m., so give us a call if you want to participate in the discussion, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Call in topics on your mind, whatever it is. Doesn't even have to be related to the show. It just related to politics and policy, but we're going to throw out a few different things today, some news items that I felt were interesting or important in some way, but would love to hear from you too. And we already got a comment, Shelly saying hi. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Shelly. So again, you can comment online. We're live on A Free Solution, the YouTube page where Shelly's listing, A Free Solution, the Facebook page, or the Kevin Wilson pages, wherever you want to listen today. Thank you for being here. and Tim O'Connor, our good friend Tim, says, hey, welcome to the perpetual never-ending state of emergency. That's what I named the show. There's a new state of emergency. State of emergency were declared in Monroe County. So we'll talk about what that means. I'll talk about some media news and with our favorite family here in New York State, the Cuomos, some Twitter news that's interesting too, and if I have time to get to it, some interesting stuff like maybe critical race theory type of stuff coming out of the Salvation Army. So if we can get to that, we will. But first, we'll talk about the Monroe County stuff. The county executive here, where I live in Monroe County, I know many folks are listening from around New York State, and including south of here in Livingston County and others, and our friends over at WACK out in Newark, a little bit east of here in Wayne County, and then probably some in Ontario County too. But Monroe County got the state of emergency going on here. Yeah, Tim, it does feel like it is a perpetual state of emergency in many cases, but I'll give Monroe County this, right? Like they've declared a state of emergency. They are taking some measures that I think are reasonable. They may take more unreasonable measures moving forward. I don't like that. Like Erie County, instituted a new mask mandate that seems like it just. I think masks make sense in certain situations. If you want to wear a good, high quality mask, great. But just it doesn't seem the mandates themselves don't seem to work all that well. If people are only loosely complying with the mandates and wearing cloth masks and engaging in riskier behavior because they think that that's good enough, it ends up being virtue signaling in many ways. It made sense at the beginning of the pandemic where we had fewer tools and less knowledge to address these things, but now the evidence kind of suggests that maybe that the mandate itself doesn't work. There are ways to protect yourself with masks. But the mask mandate isn't necessarily going to get people to do that thing. Now, so far in the county, they've kind of tiered it where they're not shutting things down. I'm not sure they could do that anyway. They are having a mask mandate for their employees and visitors to county-operated facilities. So now, even if you're vaccinated, you got to go in, wear a mask. Okay, fine. Again, I don't care if government does that to their own property. I don't care. I think it's a bit, except for schools, I think it's a little bit different with schools when you're forcing kids to be masked all day. I'm not sure that is right or wise, particularly when people, including children, are getting access to the vaccines now. Why is it necessary anymore? They're going to encourage employees to work from home if they can. Great. Why not? No problem with that. I don't see why we shouldn't encourage a ton of people to work from home if they can. Again, I'm lucky that I can do that. Many other people cannot, but if you can, cool, sure, we should do more of that. Great, as long as you can maintain security, why not? And then they're going to encourage others to have mask mandates within the workplace and allow remote work by employees. Cool. They can encourage all they want. They make the argument for why we should be doing this thing. Knock yourself out. I'm happy with persuasive government. Now, the quoting the county executive says, I don't want to go back to shutting down the economy. We have different tools available to us than a year ago. Cool. If he did learn something, that is great. I love when politicians actually learn from the failed policies of others. That's cool. Now, there news reports that maybe they'd consider more aggressive vaccine mandates for going to this to engage with county services. That's where things become a little bit more challenging. I don't know if that'll actually happen, if we'll get to that point, or if that's prudent. But for now, the state of emergency, that's fine. And the other thing that they're doing is they're releasing a whole bunch of rapid tests. Rapid tests are great. We could have had this. We had rapid tests like way in the beginning, way back in like March, April. Rapid tests were a thing. The reason we didn't have those as quickly as we could have is because the FDA dragged their feet on approving that stuff. And a lot of public health authorities were nervous that a 90% accuracy rating for rapid tests just wasn't good enough for this. But this could be a great way for making sure that they work pretty well in most situations for what we need to do. And given the level of danger of COVID for different populations, they work pretty well. You don't need a way more accurate and sensitive PCR test for your average situation. But, you take a rapid test, if you're going to go, for instance, we're going to a gathering this weekend where some people are nervous. They asked us to take a rapid test because they just want to make sure. We've been hanging out with, out in public, going to work, whatever. So, can you just take this, make us feel better? Sure. I will do that to make folks feel better. It gives a pretty good understanding of whether or not someone has like COVID in that instance, or if you're feeling sick and you want to do that. These things work pretty well. The reason we didn't have that in the beginning, like a year ago, and didn't have more companies being able to distribute these quickly is because the government got in the way. It's because we had something that worked, but the bureaucratic process is so dang slow, and it doesn't even add to the effectiveness or the accuracy of this process. All it does is limit people's access to good tools that would give them knowledge about whether or not they're actually sick with a thing, whether or not what they have is a cold or it's a much more serious illness. We could have had that a while ago. And that's, I would, gosh, I sure hope, I'm probably more, I don't know if I'm optimistic about that, but I sure hope that we can take the lesson that it doesn't matter if it's a Republican in the White House, a Democrat in the White House, whatever, the bureaucracy of our federal health infrastructure needs to be able to respond more quickly and effectively to these things. And that doesn't mean give them more money. It means creating streamlined processes for being able to get things like testing and vaccines and other things out quicker in response to a deadly pandemic. That's the solution here. But anyway, that's a bit of a tangent on the rapid test side, but to the point that the county has ordered a whole bunch of the rapid tests and they're going to be distributing to folks. That's a great thing. Again, that could be a way to keep kids in school, right? So if you have a bunch of kids who are in school, they're unvaccinated, that counts as an exposure instead of having to quarantine them or whatever. You just say, okay, do a rapid test. If you test negative, cool, that's good enough to be back in school so we don't have to disrupt that learning process. We can do that. I think that's totally reasonable to be able to do instead of having these kind of more heavy-handed quarantine orders, which, as I explained last week or the week before, I had to deal with my kid, and that stunk. It's really hard for working parents to have to deal with that stuff, and makes it difficult for people to be able to even participate in the workforce. I'll get to this comment from Shelly too. Says, I wear a mask as a courtesy, or if I'm near someone who is sick with any disease. Yeah, I kind of end up doing that too. Like if there's coworkers or I'm in a group of people and that's what they want. I usually do the polite thing. I'll have I really only use like the blue surgical mask now because those work a little bit better than the cloth ones. But I'll do that to be polite, or if a business says that, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna die on that hill. It's fine. I don't care that much. But yeah, I'll do that if someone requests it. Yeah, fine. I'm not gonna ruin a relationship over me preferring not to wear a mask anymore because I'm vaccinated. I don't feel like I should have to. And another comment says, work from home is a great opportunity during this crazy inflation. Saves on gas, and you only have to look good from the waist up. You're darn right. I do love that part. I saved a ton on gas the last couple of years, and a ton on pants. I have to go into the office a few days a week now, so I have to buy new pants. Goodness, terrible. so anyway, we're gonna be watching these emergency orders really closely, though, because other counties are going to come out with these. Like I said, Erie County has their own. Other counties are going to come out with these emergency orders. If you, in your county, outside where I live, are seeing these emergency orders and you're concerned about your liberty, let us know. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or if you're listening online, leave your comments. We'll get to it. Thanks again for joining us on A Free Solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Inside the Taylor Laboratories.
Hey, Tony, what you doing?
A little experiment, Zach. Look what I have under the microscope.
Ugh, what's that?
A sample of indoor air.
How can it be that dirty? Don't AC and furnace filters help?
Only with dust, Zach. But when Taylor installs a whole house APCO air purifier to detox the air, odors, chemicals, mold, bacteria, and viruses are removed.
For clean indoor air.
Yep. Ain't science awesome?
Taylor, 500 help.
A message from the National Police Association. It used to be that any able-bodied person would offer to assist a police officer in danger. Now, passers-by are more likely to take a video. There's a better use for your phone when an officer's in trouble. Call 911. Tell the operator where you are and what you see. Then, start your video to provide evidence later. To learn more about how you can assist law enforcement, visit nationalpolice.org. That's nationalpolice.org.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A free solution.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, host of the day. Thanks again for joining us. Again, we're live on WYSL until 1 p.m. on this wonderful Wednesday. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000 if you want to participate in the conversation. You know, we was talking last segment about the emergency orders. Again, if you're seeing that concern happen in your county, you know, I can't possibly know everything that's going on in your counties across the state. There's something cool or interesting or terrible going on, let us know. Love to talk about it on the air, or you can always call and leave a message with the producer and he'll give it to me too. And one more comment from Shelly, who says, but Fauci is the science. He said it, so it must be true. Yeah, he did say like he was the science. I kind of hate this mentality, which is on the left right now where they're like, oh yeah, trust the science. Like that's not how science works. It's not a religion, you know. It's there's an old South Park episode where like they're making fun of atheists. So when who is it? Maybe I don't remember who it was. If it was like Cartman or something, he had frozen and gone to the future, and there's like these couple groups of people who are like militant atheists, and then these otters, and they keep saying praise science. Like it reminds me of that sort of nonsense. And it's just treating science like a religion, like he is the word, he is the law. No, it's not. It's a process, and you know, understanding that things are going to change, and that you may have to adapt policy to new information is an important part of both the scientific and good policy process. And yet we have seemed to have lost that in the culture wars at the moment. And as this new variant comes out, somehow we're going to lose all the lessons that we learned, both in the original pandemic and in the Delta variant emerging, that that we learned about mask mandates, that we learned about lockdowns, that we learned about the effectiveness of these different strategies for balancing, keeping our country moving, making sure that people don't fall through the cracks, and then also fighting the virus. Like we have learned lessons about this. Let's try to apply them. My goodness, is that too much? I don't feel like that's too much to ask. I don't think it should be, and yet here we are. All right. Anyway, so enough on that topic. You know, goodness, I feel like we have to talk about COVID every day because just more and more stuff keeps coming. So we're gonna keep it. This is gonna be forever, isn't it? Forever and ever. But if you do have anything again that is going on in your county, in your town, interesting or ridiculous COVID restrictions or non-restrictions, give us a call, 585-346-3000. Would love to chat about those. We'll switch topics a little bit though. A few other things going on. You know, our producers brought this story to my attention the other day about the Salvation Army. So you know, of course they're out, they have their stores, they have their you know, the red bucket campaigns, and they got this interesting like anti-racism type of training. You know, I read over it, so the hard part is I got this thing and it looks like they may have pulled down the guide from online. Like all these articles have like links, like here's link to the full guide, and now I can't read the whole thing and see the parts in here that are, you know, kind of worse than others, I guess. You know, like all these companies are under an enormous amount of pressure to look like they are taking definitive action on race. And, you know, and I would know, like, you know, I've served on organizations that have, you know, been under this pressure that like they want to, you know, look like they're on the quote, right side of history. And so the way that it often manifests itself, and the way it's manifested itself in like some of these large corporations, you know, Microsoft, Disney, now Salvation Army, which is interesting because they are the left just really doesn't like the Salvation Army. If you hear like the left talk about them, like they're just like, oh no, you don't donate to them. They do all these terrible things, which, you know, I can't really confirm, man, that the terrible things that they've that I've heard people on the left accuse them of, and I'm not going to repeat them here because I don't know if they're true. But they're doing this thing where they want to be on the right side of history on race issues, and so they put out a guide, and you know, it has a few points. You know, the articles I've read about this were like, well, this is saying that you know, Christianity was founded in racism, and that you know, this is like a racist guide. I don't know that I'd go that far. I can't see the full guide, so I don't know if it actually says that in the screenshots that these articles had on the Let's Talk About Racism guide from Salvation Army. Some of this is reasonable, some of this not so sure. So let's go through it. So one, denial of racism, right? It says we must stop denying the existence of individual and systematic institutional racism. They exist and are still at work to keep white Americans in power. Okay. I mean, I guess the way this ends up manifesting itself too is like if you have like concerns about the extent to which systematic racism is applicable to every situation, the discussion around that is like, well, you're denying that it exists, right? Like, if you're like, well, like there are complicated factors that contribute to poverty and like crime rates among different groups. Like, we should discuss like both the individual and the systematic factors. Like, in some of these trainings that ends up like shutting down the whole conversation. Again, I'm someone who's like, yeah, I see those factors. I see how like there's a disparity in some of this stuff, but like just saying this thing exists, that institutional racism exists, and talking about it does not in and of itself solve the problems in some of the individual communities which have particular circumstances that led to these conditions. Again, thinking about this in not a way to completely deny the existence of like race problems as they exist in America, which they still do exist in some situations, but also not shutting down conversations that say like this issue is like more complex than you're letting on, and like just buying into the religion of anti-racism doesn't always solve the actual problem that it intends to, and that virtue signaling about this about the process of anti-racism doesn't fix the thing. So we'll read off a couple more points. It says education about racism and inequality. We cannot rely on our black and brown brothers and sisters to educate us about racism, white supremacy, and the inequities that exist because of it. Basically, this is something I've heard before, and it says that there are certain people who are like, I shouldn't have to explain this to you. Don't rely on, if people are like, don't rely on me to explain this stuff to you. Just Google it. I mean, okay, I guess I see, I can see how that could get exhausting for folks. So I try to be sympathetic to someone, if I'm asking questions, if I'm being tiring. But again, this is individual circumstances. Some people are happy to talk to you about it. It just depends. You got to know the person and like what your individual relationship with them is. Like, don't just say like you can never like talk to anyone about this stuff. Like, no, it's ridiculous. But don't put people into one size fits all boxes on this stuff. Defensiveness about race. We have to stop taking discussions about racism as personal attack and instead be open to hearing about our blind spots. We can all carry some bias, and the only way we get past it is to talk about it. Okay, cool. But again, the way these conversations end up going, it's if it's accusatory, if it's, you should be, if someone says like, I try to take it, if someone says that, you said something that's problematic, okay, I'll try to evaluate, I'll try to step back, right? Like, am I being a jerk here? That is a worthwhile thing to do in any situation, not just in racism. Is it worth stepping back and be like, am I the one being the jerk here? But there's also stuff that's ridiculous, right? Like we've seen plenty of ridiculous accusations of racism, where there's one of the things that people accuse, like, oh, the people who want to leave the city school district and go to other school districts, they're particularly when it's white families doing that, they're like, oh, well, that's like just participating in racism because they don't want to like go to majority black schools. Like, no, there are complex issues in place where some people have resources to be able to get a better educational option for their kids, and like they're not going to get a good educational option, they feel, in the city school district, given the nature of their high failure rates and violence in that district. And wanting to do the best thing for your kids on an individual scale is not something that is evil or immoral. Why should we say that? So having the accusation of racism come there isn't applicable. Now, there may be like race at play in these systems and how they were built, and I think that's worth discussing. But again, looking at these things on an individual level and trying not to fit them into a one-size-fits-all box is how we move forward with this stuff. Again, I know, opinion of a white guy on a radio, whatever, take it with a grain of salt, but like that's, again, how I view things. Take it, leave it. Give me an angry phone call, whatever. Good phone call, 585-346-3000. And yeah, so I know I'm probably not going to end up getting to this whole thing, but there's a few other things here. Little or no exposure to people of color. Like, oh, you should basically says you should find more, black friends. Interesting. But when we come back, I'll hit these last 2 points, and then maybe we'll move on to some other news. But thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. Give us a call if you want to weigh in on this or in the COVID stuff too. 585-346-3000. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Fly the flag, stand for freedom. AM 1040 Avon, Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the News 10 Mvc Forecast on WYSL. For tonight, an isolated shower possible by daybreak tomorrow, low of 38 with breezy conditions late as well. We turn gusty on Thursday with gusts near 30 miles an hour throughout the day, high near 50. Cloudy conditions expected also with a chance for scattered showers. Thursday night, an isolated rain or snow shower possible. We remain on the breezy side, low of 34. I'm meteorologist Alex Bielfeld on your WYSL stations.
For unbeatable deals and best selection, see Victor Chevrolet. Come see how easy it is to do business with us. Victor's got new Silverado pickups, Trailblazer, and Equinox SUVs with models ranging from LS and Customs to RS and Trail Boss to tailor-fit your needs. And there's always a huge selection of late model pre-owned vehicles. Get your ride ready for winter and save with great Victor Chevy service specials. A 6-quart oil change with tire rotation, only $49.95. An 8-quart oil change and tire rotation, just $59.95. A 4-wheel alignment to protect your tires, $89.95. And save money on expensive gas with a new air filter, $44.95 install. And there are tire savings at Victor Chevy. Get a $100 mail-in rebate on 4 Bridgestone, Continental, Goodyear, Hankook, or Pirelli tires. Get a $70 rebate on 4 Firestone, General, or Michelin tires. A $50 rebate on 4 BF Goodrich tires. Victor Chevrolet is ready to serve you today. Find new roads at Victor Chevrolet, Route 96 in Victor. Visit victorchevrolet.com.
Because your future is worth it. Mgm Associates Insurance, proudly serving the region since 1984. MGM can meet your coverage needs, ranging from home, condo, and auto, all the way to specialized policies for business, workers' comp, to limo and taxi insurance, and coverage for tech professionals like IT specialists. They can also help lead you through the confusing maze in the new world of health insurance coverage and options. MGM Associates is large enough to serve you, but small enough to care, so you don't have to wait in line on some 800 number to get prompt personal attention. MGM Associates is the only winner of the National Best Practices Award 5 times in a row. MGM is proud to support veterans groups, including Heroes Home Advantage. For your personal, business, home, or professional insurance needs, meet the professionals at MGM Associates Insurance, locally and proudly owned at 1745 Penfield Road in Penfield, 381-7008. Or mgminsure.com, an associate of Ontario Insurance Company, 20 Canandaigua Street in Shortsville.
At Springwater Amish Workshop, it's the end of the season sale on all outdoor furniture, including windmills, lighthouses, wishing wells, as well as furniture. Save on in-stock post-mount poly bird feeders, birdhouses, posts, and planters. They're reduced while supplies last. During this special clearance sale, Springwater Amish Workshop's ready to negotiate prices for certain pieces. Solid wood, American-made, pine country hutch, stained Michael's cherry, solid oak roll-top desk, stained provincial, pine 4-drawer dresser, stained a warm autumn wheat with smooth glide full extension drawers. Remember, the present furniture market requires long waiting periods for anything you order. Shop Springwater Amish Workshop and select the perfect piece that's in stock and ready to be yours now. Gazebos are still on sale, as well as a few in-stock storage sheds. Springwater Amish Workshop, 7936 Route 15 Springwater, open Monday through Friday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit springwateramishworkshop.com or visit them on Facebook. Call 585-669-9710.
An experienced professional with more than 15 years in dentistry, Dr. David Olivo welcomes new patients to his family practice at 2005 Lyle Avenue. At the office of Dr. Olivo, you'll discover a warm and comforting environment staffed by professionals who are committed to providing the best available dental care while assuring your complete comfort. Call 328-3382 for an appointment. Dr. David Olivo, offering quality dentistry with a gentle touch.
At Veterans Outreach Center, we do so much more than just provide services for veterans. Our one-stop shop model means that we provide a life-changing experience to our nation's heroes. If you're a veteran looking to change your life, or even just to connect with other vets, contact us today at 585-546-1081 or online at vocroc.org. Veterans Outreach Center, serving those who serve us.
Remember Scotty's Detail Auto Body for all of your body paint and collision repairs. And also remember, it's still the collision shop of your choice during that unfortunate time. Scotty's Detail Auto Body, Route 15 East Avon, just a quarter mile north of I-390, exit 9.
All-Star Custom Apparel and Design is your local source for outfitting your team, employees, customers, updating your logo, decaling your vehicles, and promotional items. Stop in and see us at our new location at 45 High Tech Drive in Rush. All-Star will get your name recognized.
A free solution.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us. We're here live on WYSL till 1 p.m. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Start off topic one, talking about COVID states of emergency at the county level. Topic two, talking about the Salvation Army anti-racism training. Shout out the line to our friends listening over at WACK out in Newark, and our friends listening online, Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, and the Kevin Wilson page. Wherever you're listening today, thank you for being here. And a couple comments will read off. Tim says virtue signaling, the most important signaling of all. Yeah, no, kind of feels like it. And I do want to talk about because that is the goal of a lot of these things. I think that there's genuine good intentions behind some of it, but also it's like a CYA thing for some people. And they just want to not be attacked, not be canceled. And that creates some interesting incentives to bring in, a certain type of training and certain type of discussion on racism that I don't always know is productive. And it's not universally accepted as a good thing, among everyone of different races and backgrounds. Shelley says, we're talking about Salvation Army. It helps people because Christ died once for all. He didn't die for melatonin levels. Yeah, it's interesting. I'll read off another point about this. They talked about being colorblind. I'll kind of just throw it out there. Not sure how to process it yet, but let me just read this. One of the bullet points is, stop trying to be colorblind. While this might sound helpful, it actually ignores the God-given differences we all possess, as well as the beautiful cultures of our Black and brown brothers and sisters. Instead of trying to be colorblind, try seeing the beauty in our differences and welcome them into your homes and churches and workplaces. Being colorblind also ignores the discrimination of our Black and brown brothers and sisters face and does not allow us to address racism properly. That's an interesting one because I sort of see this, right? I've had discussions with other folks there's some folks who say acknowledging the existence of race itself is to give power to racism, right? And that by pretending that these distinctions don't matter because on a biological, intellectual, and social level, they should not, by pretending they don't exist, we can eliminate those disparities and change the cultural mindset around race and eliminate what might be called structural racism, right? So certain folks who take that point of view, and there are folks who say, well, if you ignore race as a data point in seeing things like arrest numbers, poverty levels, things like that, then that is to not get to the core of what the actual problem is, right? And that this does have something to do with race, regardless of whether or not is a valid concept. Its existence is still a fact in social society, although not scientific basis. So the existence of race as a historical, cultural, what do you call it? A historical, cultural, mover and driver of policy and action still matters, and that's worth analyzing, right? So again, I kind of get both sides of this one. I don't know what to feel about that part, but there are certain things that are worth talking about because again, here's some structural racism. Tim says, zoning and gun control. Yeah, I mean, a lot of zoning policy was kind of built around that. The redlining policy is a real thing. That's why, I'm not totally dismissive of claims about structural racism because there was government policy at the federal, state, local levels that was explicitly targeting people of color. Like it happened, and the impact of those policies is still felt, because if you weren't able to go and get a home because of redlining, or you weren't able to get a home that built wealth, or whatever, that still matters, because if your grandparents weren't able to build that wealth and pass it off to your parents and give them a good life and move to a good school district, what does that mean for you today? That stuff is true. And again, looking at government policy, I think government has been one of the biggest drivers of racism. And when you have these not one size fits all policy, but when you have these like ham-fisted policies coming from government that rely on violence and coercive force that divided people based on race, that is worth talking about. And I think that the government's the worst perpetuator here. And we should talk about undoing the policies that still exist today that create some of these problems. So why not? All right, and and the part of their guide talks about that, right? They talk about talk about what the black codes that came into being after the Civil War: redlining, segregation, mass incarceration. The part that's interesting is our foundations were built on racism and is still strongly felt in every aspect of American life. And I get that people find that part of the thing controversial. Like I don't know that it's untrue, that there are some places, and I don't think that America is an inherently bad country, but there's bad stuff that happened. There was racism in public policy, and to deny that exists is to ignore history. The thing that we need to do now, though, is like, okay, where does this still exist? What are the effects of the policies that are still here, and how do we undo those in a way that is fair to as many people as possible? And is it fair or appropriate to put that legacy on everyone? Is it fair to put it on white people at this point? I know that's the concern that some folks have. And it dives into discussions like about white privilege and whatnot. If you're still benefiting from these policies, does that matter? What do you do to take corrective action, both on an individual and a policy level, to rectify the differences that were created by public policy? Now, I don't have a simple answer for you. That's a whole series of shows and thinking about this. But what this ends up doing, again, I get what they're trying to do, right? Again, I've been in this position. How do you look like you're trying to do the right thing? You're trying to acknowledge that this problem exists. It's in the zeitgeist. It's in the cultural moment. So the easiest thing to do is to kind of plug into one of these programs and adapt it to your criteria. And what Salvation Army did, and I did find one of their guides, and I'll share the link to it for you. They adapted this to Bible quotes that kind of support seeing everyone as equal, about helping people, about so all this stuff, like, again, sort of makes sense. It's just that the paradigm that they use of the of the white fragility mindset, which I don't know if you haven't read that book. It's fascinating. It is like white guilt complex monetized. You have to be like constantly apologetic for this. And I don't know that that's helpful, that brings us to the types of solutions that matter. Like Tim had mentioned gun control, right? Like gun control was initially instituted in part to discriminate against black people. That's what it was. It was to strip them of their Second Amendment rights and to incarcerate like many of them. And like we should talk about that, and maybe consider that gun control is a policy that impacts some communities disproportionately, and start to undo that. But to be afraid to like address the individual aspects that contribute to disparities in wealth, access to education, and incarceration is to, again, ignore the actual problems that are at the root of why people are less likely to succeed. And we can do better here. And great question from Dan Cole. And I definitely don't have time to get into all this, but it says, hey, Kevin, long time. Are there any laws on the books now that you think perpetuate racism? Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a bunch of those. And we'll get to those after the break. But just to wrap up the Salvation Army thing, I get what they're trying to do. I still do think that they, as an organization, do a lot of good. I'm not gonna be like, oh no, I'm never gonna like support any of that stuff again. Like as far as I know, they seem to do a lot of good. I think that there's a lot of social pressure right now to do this sort of virtue signaling, and we as consumers or supporters of companies or nonprofits like need to continue talking with them about the right way to approach these things, because they're responding to a small, loud, upset, sometimes understandably so, upset portion of the population that wants to talk about race in a very narrow and defining way that I think is unhealthy for our country, that is unsustainable, that divides people more than unites people on solving problems. That it's about guilt and sin and irreconcilable, unforgivable stuff that happened. But how do we move forward from here in a way that is going to promote healing and success among the communities that were hurt by historical injustices? All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Need help with health insurance? The Greece Regional Chamber provides assistance with health insurance for businesses, nonprofits, families, and individuals throughout our region. We pride ourselves on the personalized service that we provide for our clients. Let us help you find health insurance plans that fit your needs and navigate the paperwork. Greece Chamber Benefit Partners, located at 2402 Westridge Road in Rochester, New York, offers a broad range of medical insurance plans for businesses, nonprofits, individuals, and families throughout the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region, working with insurance companies including Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, Univera, and MVP Healthcare. We can also help you access insurance plans through the New York State of Health, the official health plan marketplace. Again, you do not need to live or work in Greece to utilize our brokerage services. We serve the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region of New York State. Visit greecechamber.org to sign up for one of our free health insurance information sessions or schedule an appointment with one of our licensed brokers. Call 585-227-7272. 585-227-7272.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us. We're live on WSL to 1 p.m. Give us a call 585-346-3000 if you want to participate, or leave your comments online if you are listening to us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you're listening today. Thank you for being here. And to go back to Dan Cole's question, are there any laws in the books that now that you think perpetuate racism? I think it's less clear nowadays. Like it's less like explicit, right? Like you have this kind of like demarcation where you'd have something called like de jure racism, right? It's racism like explicitly written into the law, and then you have the kind of de facto racism following that, like it's racism that is still in the consequences of the law itself, and that's kind of what exists today, and it's not totally clear cut. Like it's not like this is a law that only impacts people of color, that this is only a law that like impacts one community or another. It's more complicated than that, and oftentimes it's all tied into things like poverty and location and other factors, right? So with that, it's laws like the war on drugs, right? Again, like when you had laws that had sentencing disparities, and we started to get rid of those, the federal government started to get rid of these for crack cocaine, where that was a drug that was used more aggressively in black communities and white communities. That was something that, although not explicitly written into the law, disproportionately impacted black communities more. And the nature of how those laws came about is complicated too, because it wasn't just like evil maniacal like white dudes like going and trying to make like racist laws. It's more like some of those communities are trying to solve a problem too, right? Like they're trying to solve a problem with crime, with communities being impacted by heavy drug use, and how that impacts people being able to hold down a job and maintain a home and take care of their families. So the impact of that law disproportionately impacted people based on race, but it wasn't necessarily the intention. But talking about the outcome is important too. I'll get to another comment from Tim. It says it's in part morphed into economic segregation, again reflected in zoning and gun control. Yeah, Tim, I agree. And so like other laws like that, like the war on drugs, gun control being one of them too. So if you have a community that's concerned about crime, and then they ask for more police to be in those communities, and then you see the number of arrests go up, right? Like sometimes that can be a reflection of the policies driven by the anxieties of like white suburbs. Sometimes that's what the case, but sometimes it's communities itself asking for that, and then trying to get like control of violence in areas where there's a lot of poverty and desperation, and then the outcome ends up being that there are more people of color, not just black people, but like other like minority communities end up getting arrested at higher rates, because for a bunch of complicated factors, there are more police in those areas. And so again, the results end up disproportionately impacting one community over another. But a lot of that is tied into demands for safety, tied in with poverty, tied in with economic opportunity. And it kind of ends up spiraling. So it's things like that, things like zoning as well. Can you build adequate housing in an area? If you can't actually build new housing in an area, if things are kind of locked into place, you're not able to house all the people that you want, prices end up going up in these communities. We're seeing that happen really bad in California and with New York. So again, it's not a clear-cut thing, and that's why it's important to like not get shut down into like, oh, you can't have you have to have this discussion, but only in this like really narrow way defined by like the radical left. Like, no, let's talk. We want to talk about these problems. Let's talk about these problems. Okay, they exist. There's a bunch of complicated factors regarding government policy, regarding culture, regarding economic opportunity. Okay, let's work on addressing those things, but it doesn't have to have that discussion in the very narrow way that some people want to do this. And now I want to get to this other point that Dan had made too. He says, I think that with virtue signaling, it's a way to buffer against potential discrimination litigation as well. I mean, yeah, probably. Again, that's why some of these places want to do that, right? If they have individuals within their company who are engaging in racist behavior, or or they get like the accusation thrown at them that they're doing something that has like racist outcomes, they can just point to this and say, hey, look, this is the gold standard of anti-racism training. Like, we told all of our employees that they needed to follow this, like they needed to do this reading, that they needed to follow these values. These are our values. So if someone, deviated from that, that's on that individual. That is their fault. We are not liable for any discrimination that happens. So and that's I get it. It's CYA stuff. I get why people do it. I don't think that it's healthy, though, to just point to this only because you don't want the Twitter mob to go after you for a little bit. Are you willing to weather that? Speaking of which, it's going to be interesting, that if you have any other comments, again, give us a call, 585-346-3000. I only have a few minutes left. But it is going to be interesting with Jack Dorsey stepping down from Twitter. Jack Dorsey, for all of his, interesting quirks, I do worry that like Twitter's going to get even more like, become more of like a lefty echo sphere at this point. It's an echo chamber. Echo chamber, because Jack Dorsey, for all of his flaws, is like, no, like we kind of want Section 230 to stay around so we can like kind of have the ability to do this, but they were pushing the values of free speech. They're gonna have a new CEO in there who is kind of pretty explicitly like opposed to that. He says, he had in previous conversations said that Twitter should focus less on thinking about free speech. And it's Parag Agrawal, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, says a role is not bound by First Amendment, but our role is to serve a healthy public conversation, and our moves are reflective of things that we believe lead to a healthier public conversation. The kind of things that we do is focus less on thinking about free speech, but thinking about how times have changed. So it makes me think that the conversation about how these topics go on Twitter is going to get even more narrow and even more focused on this particular type of solution. And this particular type of thinking about anti-racism, which again, I know some people don't like that term, but I still am fine with it in some ways, because I define it outside of what the hyper woke left does, and say that like we should work to dismantle racism. It does still exist. I just don't have to. I'm not obligated to do it in the way that they suggest, which is usually like, well, we'll fight racism by implementing communism and pretending that there are serious inherent differences between races that are insurmountable, and that we can never erase the guilt of the historical injustices that exist, and also you can't talk about it. Nope, that ain't it, Chief. That's not the way that we have to go. So we'll see if Twitter just devolves more into that type of thing. I don't know if I'm saying anything edgy enough on Twitter to get kicked off at this point. I got one of them fancy blue checks, but we'll see. Tim O'Connor, you're on watch. You're gonna be in trouble, buddy. But all right, so that's how we got for a show. Tim O'Connor is gonna be on tomorrow. I'll be on Friday with Tim. So thank you so much for joining today. Thank you so much for listening. Appreciate all your comments. Appreciate all the discussion. Have a wonderful afternoon. Talk to you later this week.